Sophisticated chatbots like ChatGPT have been around for a little over 2 years, and yet they already are reshaping a lot of the world around us. So now imagine what a machine capable of truly independent and original thought could do for our lives, societies, and economies. But not everyone is as enthusiastic about this new technology as, for example, tech CEOs. Last year, a group of current and former OpenAI and Google researchers and developers, along with the grandfather of AI and Nobel laureate Geoffrey Hinton, wrote an open letter on the risks associated with advanced artificial intelligence. In it, they wrote that the risks range from the further entrenchment of existing inequalities to manipulation and misinformation to the loss of control of autonomous AI systems, potentially resulting in human extinction. But they also expressed hope that these risks can be adequately mitigated with sufficient guidance from the scientific community, policymakers, and the public. However, AI companies have strong financial incentives to avoid effective oversight, and we do not believe bespoke structures of corporate governance are sufficient to change that. Now, some truly dramatic words there. So, to help us better understand these risks and how to mitigate them, we have with us today Ethan Du, the founder of Taiwan AI Labs, and Arthur van der Wees from the Institute for Accountability in the Digital Age, speaking to us from The Hague in the Netherlands. So, Arthur, the open letter mentions the entrenchment of existing inequalities. What is the connection between AGI and that kind of fear, that kind of worry?
It's the worry that we have been talking about the last decade when we talk about autonomous systems. We think about autonomous systems, whether they're on the ground, in the air, or in systems somewhere behind walls. We think about Terminator, we think about indeed being killed and overpowered by machines. These things are definitely something we need to continue to think about. These things already are there. I mean, the whole notion of thinking about it and try to look at it from a global perspective, which also the Institute for Accountability is trying to do, but meanwhile also taking care of it, of looking into it and supporting it locally or in a region like the European Union or the European or Europe, or also with the friends and allies throughout the world, to try to identify a particular sector, a particular risk. Geneva Convention regarding the use of AI in wartime, but of course also on the civil level. So I of course recognize and it's good to have these letters and endorsements to say, guys, we need to go beyond what is currently happening. If something goes wrong, that the technology company says sorry and then stops and we move on. We need to go further. And the nice thing about accountability, we're not talking about liability or going to court or suing each other. It's about accountability, which is an obligation, a moral obligation for everybody everywhere. If you're on the road or if you're in your home or in your office. So it's a notion that keeps it sort of fluid. So we're not imposing on local cultural values. Everybody is accountable for their own behavior. But meanwhile, we're moving from the for the sorry mode to being accountable. But before you start and designing it, when deploying it, during deployments and improving it, and also during decommissioning. Because if we have in the next round a massive amount of AI agents, who is responsible actually to decommission them? If they're either not used anymore or out of date or whatever, are they going to roam around in the internet? A lot of questions there. So again, the open letter is very good and welcomed. But now we need to focus on how to address it. And of course, it should definitely be a global priority, as I also mentioned. It sounds easy, but it's rather difficult to get there.
Well, let's go back a little bit to this capital and the big tech companies that the signatories of the open letter mentioned. Ethan, how are smaller players like Taiwan or the institutions and organizations that we see in Taiwan, how are they able to compete in this space that is dominated by big budgets and big companies with massive amounts of money?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, so in Taiwan, we focus on the domain expertise. Like right now, if we look into the big tech company, the AI model they build up is mostly on the public data. In the private data, according to the consultant company, our study in Taiwan, that only 1% of the private data is being trained for the artificial intelligence right now. If we want to have a trustworthy and responsible training mechanism, so the federated technology train the industry affordable model that's actually following the ESG, and that can be used to solve the domain expertise. Will be the major task in Taiwan we focus on. So if the AI algorithm is trained in-house in the institute, how can you make sure this AI algorithm is reliable, is trustworthy? So in our responsible AI, we follow a couple disciplines. One is explainable, one is traceable, one is verifiable, and one is auditable. So explainable means when AI artificial intelligence make any decision for a human, it need to be step by step explained why it's thinking in this way, why it made this decision. Verifiable, traceable means when you train this AI algorithm and you want to use this AI algorithm, you need to know how did you train this your AI algorithm, which data you use for training, who is labeling the data, and who is validating the data, and what is the precision, what is the recall, what is the acceptance of this AI model. That's a traceable. And validatable means if there's an AI algorithm, for example, the Institute A say I have a very good AI algorithm, it can help me to diagnose this kind of disease. Then there should be another way in other institutes to try to reproduce and validate the result that come from the Institute A. We call it federated validation. So in Taiwan, we have a federated alliance. So hospital by hospital, they can train AI algorithm together. On the other hand, different hospitals can also validate different AI algorithms that is actually published by other institutes. So we call it federated validation.
Well,
we
are slowly running out of time, so I'm unfortunately going to have to speed us along a little bit. Arthur, in our previous conversation, you said on regulation, which we mentioned a few times during this discussion today as well. You mentioned that technologically neutral legislation is better than banning specific uses of AI. What does that mean exactly?
So back in the 80s, we were focusing on telcos and tried to regulate those. So we had a vertical approach. So we're focusing on the telcos, and then we moved on to other technology and focusing on that. So at least in the EU, the focus is more horizontal now, looking indeed at particular challenges, whether it's privacy or security or interoperability or human agency. And then it's interesting, of course, to see that the AI Act is sort of a strange law compared to the other ones, because it's a bit less horizontal, it's more vertical. But technology neutral, vendor neutral, not focusing on the latest, black box that is offered, means that those regulations are way more future-proof. Definitely need to be challenged once in a while and improved there as well. Also operating system, because a law is an operating system by itself too, needs to be updated, monitored, etc. But with that, you have a long-term proof and life cycle. So that is something that I think everybody should take into account, because otherwise you focus on one particular technology today and tomorrow they say, yeah, that's not applicable because we have improved our technology.
Well, Ethan, I'm going to give you the last word here. One more thing that was mentioned in this open letter is misinformation and how AI could potentially make that even worse. Now, Taiwan is one of the countries that deals with probably the most disinformation in the world. What do you think Taiwan can share with the rest of the world to help steer the development of AGI or further development of AI systems in a healthier direction?
Yes, Taiwan is one of the most freedom places in terms of media freedom, and we also, according to the variety of democracy, we are number one in terms of foreign government dissemination of false information. After we have the generative AI, so we can in Taiwan we have a systematic monitoring to understand the account on the social media, and we can discover there are a lot of account and a lot of content. They are actually being controlled not by the real user. They are actually AI accounts, the bot accounts, and they are trying to disseminate the narrative that is actually consistent with the state media. So what we do, so we train our large language model, and we have an AI classified. It can according to the long history of a certain account, we can distinguish the account from real user. Therefore, with the true account we discovered, we can then aggregate and understand what are the narrative they are trying to spread out. And this whole process is running in real time in automatic way. And we also share our result to our news media company in Taiwan, and also we educate our people in Taiwan how to identify the true accounts.
Well, let's hope that further AI and AGI developments will take us into that direction and help us protect societies and ourselves from these kind of misinformation attempts rather than amplify them. This is unfortunately all the time we have for this discussion. Thank you very much to both my panelists, Ethan Du, the founder of Taiwan AI Labs, and Arthur van der Wees, co-founder of the Institute for Accountability in the Digital Age, speaking to us from The Hague in the Netherlands. What do you think? Is AGI really an existential threat to humanity or a boogeyman from the Terminator movies? Leave your comments, your boots, and your motorcycle in the comments below. Click the video beside me for a discussion on how AGI could reshape our societies and economies. If you don't want to miss more stories on tech and finance from Taiwan, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell.